Ever felt frustrated being told PMS, heavy bleeding, and cramping are just normal parts of life? You are not alone. I loathed my monthly cycle for decades. That all changed when I earned 3 health coaching certifications discovering something incredible. Your period is vital. It is an outward sign of your inner health, and it holds the key to unlocking your full potential. I've been there battling heavy, painful periods, and I turn them into cycles with minimal PMS and cramping. Today, I'm on a mission to share that information with you. Pour a cup of your favorite drink, get comfy, and grab your headphones as we embark on a candid and empowering journey of self-discovery. Together, we'll demystify menstrual cycles, explore cyclical living, delve into natural birth control, and guide parents through those crucial period talks with tweens and teens. It's time to break the taboo around menstruation and embrace the wisdom it holds. I'm your host, Heather Almendinger, and this is the Embracing Flow podcast. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Embracing Flow. I'd like to introduce our guest today, an expert at Embracing Flow, Sheri Danzig. Welcome, Sheri. How are you today?
I am great.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, excited about life.
Isn't that the truth? If we're not excited about life, I mean, what do we do? Really, what do we do
Every
if we're
day
not
I'm excited about life. Some days I'm less excited. Let me say that. Well, a lot of good things are happening, so I'm excited.
Yes, every day is a new day. You never know what it's going to bring. And so I look forward to every single day.
Yes.
Listeners, here is Sheri Danzig. She is a wellness mentor and founder of Choosing Vibrancy. Over 25 years ago, Sheri did a bold career pivot from selling food to feeding the soul. Leaving behind her role as a sales rep in the food industry, she followed a deeper calling to become a neuromuscular therapist, launching her lifelong mission to help others feel vibrant from the inside out. She founded Choosing Vibrancy to inspire and teach natural, simple self-care solutions that anyone, everywhere can weave into daily life. Through her workshops, one-on-one consultations, and global wellness community, Sheri has helped thousands of people reclaim their vitality and well-being. If you believe that Zen moments are reserved for vacations or that your morning mood depends on everyone else in the house, get ready to flip that script. Driven by deep fascination with body-mind connection, Sheri has spent decades immersed in the science and art of personal empowerment. Her work invites you to reconnect with your own inner compass and discover how good you're meant to feel. All of us, myself, I know my listeners, that is what we want to do. We just want to have a really, really good life.
Yes.
Before we get into how you got into that, would you be open to sharing one of your cycle stories and about what age you started cycling?
So I was about 13. It was interesting because I'm young for my age in my class because I have a December birthday. So I'm young, and I remember, it's been a bunch of years ago, but I remember feeling like I was, a late starter. I had other friends, they were older than me, so it makes sense, but my peers had already started their period. So before I did. So I feel like I was like the last one. I also am the only girl with 2 older and 1 younger brother. So it's not like I had, another sister to kind of share that with. So, yeah, I remember it being, I was lucky in that until I got into menopause, I had a pretty light period. I didn't know what everybody was talking about. My friends that had terrible PMS and terrible cramping and all of that. I kind of missed it. I'm not saying I missed it. It just escaped me. And one of my most vivid memories regarding my period was I had not asked my mother to help me put in a tampon, which wasn't right away, but pretty early on, within a few months. And I hadn't pushed it all the way in. And so it was so painful. So when I first was shown how to properly insert a tampon, it was like, you know, fireworks. I was so excited. that it was like, oh, this doesn't hurt. You don't even know it's there. So,
I have to chuckle because tampons seem to be a theme for this month. I just had a guest on recently as well. Tampons were She didn't realize that the applicator had to come off, and her friends didn't realize that the applicator had to come out. And they're wearing the tampon with the applicator, and they're wondering why the tampons aren't working. So
uh-huh.
I'm sitting here and I'm just smiling, thinking of that story. I'm like, all right, have things changed then now that we understand how to use tampons, or does do we need to go back and do I need to incorporate that sometimes with some of the things that I teach on how to use a tampon, and
Apps.
how far to insert it and stuff like that? Because it seems to be a theme right now.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know where you get that information. Probably there's a YouTube, video. Probably. I haven't looked for it. But
I'm sure there is. I know the box had some very vague description and diagram when I was in my teens,
mhm,
and um, but yes, I know that there are some organizations that actually go into schools and have the female reproductive tract and
mhm,
actually show how a tampon is inserted and how it's used, which I believe I think that's amazing
mhm.
that that is being taught because of your experience with tampons, this other guest's experience with tampons, my experience with tampons. My mom kind of helped me, but not really. I know that your experience with your cycles may have played a little bit on what you're doing now. Because I know we've talked off camera,
Mhm,
and your background in the women's birthing space.
mhm, mhm.
Um, how did you kind of get into that briefly, and with the neurotransmitter, the neurospace and all that, to where you're at now and the important information we're going to have on this podcast today?
Thank you. I so appreciate being here. I love what you're doing. I think it's such important information. And, just the thing about going back to the tampon, I mean, putting them in, I mean, it's just stigma or something. My mother was not one that was so comfortable talking about, the sex and just everything. I mean, I got some information, but it was mostly a book. So I think there was less information back in my day for sure. I'm hoping it's gotten better. Um, so I was in a field, I was a teacher, and then I went into the food business, as I said, because I got a little burned out on being a teacher and I wasn't equipped for what I was facing in the classroom. And so I had a restaurant background, so that was an easy thing to go into. And then I was inspired to look at, I kind of fell into the massage field of going to an orientation class and going, okay, this is where I belong. If you've ever had that happen where I went to an orientation, it was like to introduce people to possibly being a massage therapist. And this is 35 years ago. So this was long before the massage MDs and all of those kind of things. It wasn't mainstream like it is today. At least it wasn't in the South. I think probably California, West Coast, it might have been a little bit more. Um, so it was something that I'd already had a little bit of interested, fell in love with it. And when I started massage school, I got pregnant. So they pretty much layered right to each other. So I went through my whole massage training as I was going through my pregnancy, my first pregnancy. And when well, there was a break before I finished this two parts of the program, but I had my daughter, and so in that experience, it wasn't the best labor experience, and then I got pregnant again 3 years later, and I was pregnant with twins, and so then I had another experience with laboring, and my husband just not really knowing how to support me, and so that really inspired me to become a doula. I fell in love with prenatal massage right away when I first finished because of my first pregnancy and being in school. I knew how important getting massage and having that support during your pregnancy was. And then the doula part of it was simply because I was following my clients through their pregnancy. So why not go into labor? And I was being asked to do that. And also my own experience. I thought, you know what? It would have been great had I had somebody that was trained the way I'm being trained for my labor to support me. My husband's a great guy. He just didn't really know how to do what I needed him to do. So that's how I got into all of that. And like I said, that was 35 years ago. My oldest is going to be 36 on her next birthday. So that's how many years I've been in this field. And always being an educator, the part of the teaching, even though I didn't stay a classroom teacher for more than 4 years, that part of being wanting to teach, wanting to feel like I could help empower mostly women. My clients weren't, well, obviously, if they were pregnant, they were all women. Um, it was really important for me to feel like I could educate and impart wellness information. So that kind of started early on as well.
For me, what you do, it's yes, the our partners, our spouses, they just don't know what to do. I remember hearing stories with my mom and how my grandfather wasn't even allowed in the delivery room.
Hmm.
Um, they don't know what to do. That it's not something that they were shown how to do or how to support because they that wasn't their upbringing.
Yeah.
It was they go out, they provide, they protect. So it's beautiful that you're bringing that support that we need through labor and delivery. It was great that you were able to do that. And I know since we spoke off camera, you're continuing it just to select few for family.
For family now. Yeah,
Yep.
I was a doula of without I didn't work with a group, so it was me, solo practice, which meant if I was on call for a birth, I was the sole person. And, as I have gotten older and have been at many, 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 many births, and, you get a call at 3 in the morning. One time I got a call, I was out on a lake. She was early. And so I didn't think I had to be on call and be so close to the phone. But, baby comes when baby comes. And so I was skiing and my phone rang and I had to get home and get back, dry off and get to a labor. So a lot of wonderful experiences, and I'm at the point now where as I said, you can't pay me to be your doula. I will be your doula if I love you. If you're my family or my friends, my dear friends, daughters and stuff. So I am available as a doula. I don't want to let go of it completely. But professionally, I've stopped.
Yep. And we both know as new moms, as well as you being in the profession, sleep is extremely important for us as we heal, for us as we embrace this different form of motherhood, because we had the motherhood as we were pregnant. Just protecting that, making sure we were feeding ourselves and exercising and doing what we needed to give our babies a really good start to life before birth.
Mhm.
It changes though once that baby enters our
Mhm.
lives in physical form that we can actually hold and hear, as well as throughout the rest of our lives. It's important before, but it's definitely important even after. What can you tell us about sleep and how it impacts us, um, if we get the right amount, if we get too little, we get too much? How does sleep impact us?
Well, that's a big topic, and I'm delighted to talk about it. I want to start by saying I want to give you a little bit of background of why sleep became something, it's such a passion project for me. And that is, and I mentioned my mom loved that way, or it certainly was modeled for me. Um, and so she was one of those moms that for a long time didn't work outside of the home, but had 4 kids pretty close together. So I watched her, stay up late and get things done. So then I became a mom and I had a massage practice and I was a new mom. And then 3 years, 3.5 years later, I'm still with the massage practice and now I've got 3 little ones. So I was very busy. And so my understanding of how to mother is, and I had this is part of who I am, is I want to be everything for everyone. I had that need to, be a superwoman. And so what did I do? I figured I could cheat time and I could not sleep as much. and stay up late. And I was already a night owl and I saw my mom do it. And so this was working for me. So for many years, my time to go to the grocery store was at midnight. Um, it's not now, it's not so common now, but all the grocery stores around me for a while were open 24/7. They've changed, which is good. But I could go to the grocery store anytime I wanted. So I was, on habit getting stuff done by staying up later and stretching my day, which meant I was getting less sleep. And so if I sat down anywhere, I remember this, it hit me sometime this year, getting my nails done. If I sat down to get my nails done, I was out. I just was always sleep deprived, right? So but then somewhere in my career, I had started connected with a company that has sleep technology. So then my sleep improved. So then I wasn't waking up hurting, which I had been waking up hurting. So my sleep improved. So I continued to ignore. I wasn't maybe staying up quite as late, but maybe I was. But I was sleeping well. I just wasn't sleeping enough, right? So I had this whole thing. But then eventually I started doing some research on sleep. I got inspired and started buying books on sleep and reading and listening to lectures. And then I became aghast because I realized that once you know something, you can't unknow it, right? So sometimes ignorance is bliss. So then I became pretty entrenched in how important sleep was. And so I started doing research about it and talking about it. And then I started, uh, realizing that it was affecting me. So anyhow, what happened? I had a wake up call where I was tired. This was going back when I was up in the middle of the night going to the grocery store. I come back and we have a very steep driveway in our house. And I happened to be driving my husband's stick shift car, and it had just been in the shop. And I pulled up to the driveway to open the garage door, and the remote wasn't working. So I put the car in park, got out, had to manually open the garage door with the keypad, got back in the car. The garage door opened, and I thought I had put my foot on the brake to go then drive in. Very steep driveway, but I had not. I put my foot because I was tired. It was 1 in the
Mhm.
morning. I put my foot on the clutch. And so before I knew it, I was flying backwards down our hill. We live in a cul-de-sac, and I hit the car, kind of jumped up on the curb, and there's one of those like tall things that is the electrical box for the neighborhood. It hit that. And I mean, 20-foot flames flew. It exploded the electrical box, shut the electricity down for the whole neighborhood, the whole street, anyhow, and had this huge fire. So neighbors are running out. I'm standing there. I mean, my one neighbor's yelling at me, get out of the car, because I was in shock. And two fire trucks, everybody staring at me. That was a wake-up call. I was so embarrassed that this had happened. And I had to, it was that happening. And then at the same time, I was starting to do sleep research. So, I just want you to know, saying this, that I wasn't always perfect with my sleep. I had to be. I hope you don't have that kind of experience to realize that, okay, we got to start going to bed. I just was not paying attention to it. So I have this really impassioned view now. And so what I know about sleep is that number one, it is the most important thing we do to stay healthy. And that kind of surprised me. But the founder, or maybe he was the co-founder of REM sleep. He was one of the early sleep researchers. This is going back in the 50s. And his quote is still true today, which is that more than diet, exercise, and genetics, sleep is the number one predictor, the number one factor of your longevity. Meaning, whether you're going to live a long life or not so long of a life. It's so you can eat really well, you can exercise and be very fit, but if you're not sleeping, that is undermining everything else, is basically what this is saying. So, and it's because about 90% of our recovery happens at night. And it's only been in the last, because that was in the 50s, but that it took many, many more years, decades, before doctors started really paying attention. And there's now sleep centers and sleep research and, a lot more information out there. But for the longest time, nobody understood why you slept. It just seemed kind of like a waste of time. And, there's the saying, I've heard it many a time, I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yep.
you know, and bragging rights for people that were, maybe in a corporate work situation where it was considered acceptable. It was considered almost something you could brag about that you did an all-nighter at work. My daughter, my oldest daughter, the one that I was pregnant with when this started, is a medical doctor. And, I was appalled at her schedule. She still does overnight. She'll do 7 to 7 shifts. But when she was a resident, it was, they were working them crazy. And of course, they do it because it's pretty cheap labor. And it's insane to me because there's so much research that shows that when you're tired, your judgment is completely impacted. You don't think, you can't make good decisions. So, how do we think that, especially residents where they're doing back to back to back days, and we're leaving them in charge of taking care of our sick people, or in an emergency room? It's crazy. So, we still have a lot to learn, I think. Um, so that's a lot of information, but I just wanted to share that that's my coming into sleep and really understanding that there's a lot of things that one can do. I like to take, clients through a sleep questionnaire that's very in depth to really see if I'd like to start with the easy things, and there's lots of reasons why people don't sleep well. um, and I feel like I can offer a lot of solutions that don't involve medication and severe things. Sometimes there's something that's going on medically that could be interrupting sleep. Most of the time, it's about changing some sleep habits, some lifestyle habits leading up to sleep. Um, I like to think we can go back to when our kids were little and they had a bedtime routine, and we knew that that worked because we needed to teach them to kind of, wind down. Um, and I think adults need that too, but we don't think we do because we start making decisions that just overrides common
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah. With being in the hormone space and understanding hormones, I let those that I work with and those that I talk to, nutrition, stress management, appropriate exercise, and sleep, those four
Hmm.
pillars of health,
Hmm.
will improve
Hmm.
most situations that you're going through. And
Yeah.
having that sleep routine, getting rid of those blue lights, turning off the electronics an hour or two before you go to bed, changing those light bulbs so that way I'm a mess.
That was great.
um, Turning off those blue lights, changing the light bulbs so that way if you do wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, the bright lights aren't telling your body, hey, it's time to wake up.
Hmm. Hmm.
What's very interesting is it wasn't planned, but I woke up this morning, early this morning, my dog needed to go out. I've gotten into a habit that I kind of try and almost, it's not sleepwalking because I am partially awake to take the dog out. Enough that I'm cognizant on what's going on, that sort of thing. But I try not to wake up fully
Hmm.
when I take the dog out because
Hmm.
most of the time it's 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I do not want to be up that early. Well, this morning, my son came downstairs and he was like trying to open the door, and then he wanted to go to the bathroom. He wanted me to shut the door because he's of that age that he likes going to the bathroom outside. Okay, no problem. Now he walks by the bathroom to come downstairs, but our door is, I live in an old farmhouse. So to make sure the front door's closed in this humidity that we're having right now, you've got to push it closed or you got to slam it. And when you slam the door, the whole house shakes.
Hmm.
So he hasn't quite mastered how to shut the door in this type of weather.
Hmm.
So this morning I looked down, I said, okay, if you see my phone on my bedside table, I am coming back up to bed. And usually I would not keep my phone in my room. I know that's something that is not a good habit to have. My purpose for it is I actually record my sleep to see if my breathing is changing and my snoring.
Hmm. Hmm.
That so that's why I have my phone, but I have it shut off that unless you're my mother, my son, or like somebody very important to me, it will not buzz, it will not ring through all those
Sure.
notifications I get in the morning
Sure.
after a certain time frame. I said, if it's there, I'm coming back to bed. I said, because I was starting to wake up. I'm like, great, now I'm going to be up at 5 o'clock
Hmm.
because I
Hmm.
do value my sleep. I'm getting into, especially this perimenopause age. We really need that sleep.
Yeah.
I can feel I have my aura ring and it tells me, nope, your readiness score, your sleep score has not been very good. And it's impacting my readiness score. It's impacting my overall general health.
Yeah.
And yes, that's a tool, but I can feel it. I can see it.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
you
it's
definitely feel it. You wake up from one night of not getting good sleep or enough good sleep, and your body, it's an immediate feedback system.
mhm.
And it's because every system is requiring a reset to be recharged. So, and it's kind of scary when you think about the fact if you're getting less than 7 hours of sleep, you're waking up pre-diabetic. Your immune system is functioning at about 50% deficit or more. So you're more likely to be susceptible to getting the cold or COVID or whatever's going around because your immune system gets affected. And of course, talking about cycles and our whole hormonal balance, all of that is getting reset or not based on your sleep. Would it be helpful to talk a little bit? Because I like to to kind of paint the picture, because I don't know if everybody knows this about the stages and cycles of sleep, because I think it did for me. It helped to kind of drive in what was going on with me and why it was affecting me physiological or could affect me physiological. So
I'd
would
love
that
for
be
you to
appropriate
cover
to talk
those.
about?
Oh, absolutely, because
Okay.
it's there are some listeners that may not understand that we have different stages of sleep
Right.
and
Yeah.
what happens during those different stages. So that way they can actually look and see if they do have an aura ring or if they're wearing a watch or something of some form,
Hmm.
they're
Hmm.
understanding those different stages and
Hmm.
why this amount of time in that stage is
Hmm.
important.
Yes. Okay, great. So there's 5 stages of sleep, and the body is designed to go through each stage in order and then cycle through again 5 times. So the first stage is that light sleep, and it's not exact. It's about the full cycle is about 90 minutes to about 110 minutes. So about an hour and a half to pushing 2 hours. There's fluctuation with on an individual basis, but that first 10-20 minutes or so is that lighter sleep where your body's starting to slow down, and that's that twilight sleep. And then you get into the next stage of sleep, which is really for moving into that where your body, when you get into full delta sleep, that's your body's recovery. That's all about the body. That's how when your body is using the nutrition you've put in it. It's where cells are being much more, there's more activity with cell duplication, and it's just everything with muscles and bones and organs and everything to do with the body. And then you move from there to the pre-REM sleep, and your temperature drops. And then you move into REM sleep. And we hear REM sleep and we think it's just all REM sleep, but it's not. It's only one part of it. REM sleep is all about the mind. So REM sleep is where we are, it stands for rapid eye movement. And that's at that stage of sleep, that's where your brain is processing all the stimuli, all the information to decide what goes into long-term memory, what gets released. It's the mind is doing a lot of work at that point, and that's when people will, if you wake up right after REM sleep, you'll wake up and you'll remember your dreams much more readily. What's interesting about it is if you wake up because your dog wakes you up like the dog did this morning, and you're in the middle of delta sleep, you're going to feel much, much more groggy. You're going to feel like, it's very disruptive, of course, but because you're in the middle of that sleep, that whole sleep cycle. But when you go back, or even if you don't get out of bed, let's say you get disturbed a little bit because you get too hot or you get too cold and you're moving the blankets, kicking them off or putting them on. So you haven't even had that much of an interruption. If you're aware of it, then you don't then go right back to where you pick up. It's not like a book, you left it and you go right back to it, or you stop a movie and you go right back to it. Your body starts again at the early stage. So for some people, when they go through and look at, devices and or have a sleep study, they're never really getting into REM sleep, which is the last stage. So that's where this affects the brain so much as well. And it's problematic for lots of reasons. It certainly affects your ability to focus. You're not you're the synapses that work to again assimilate information. It affects creativity. It creates focus. It affects all of those things, but it also affects you physiologically. And so as we're getting into in the 30s and beyond age-wise, where that affects if you're not getting into REM sleep is that you start getting a buildup of proteins. And I have it written down, but I can't even pronounce it that well. It doesn't matter. But they're proteins in the brain. And I think it's really fascinating is that the brain literally shrinks a little bit in REM sleep so that there can be a cleansing. If there's more fluids it cleanses the brain. And so if you don't get into REM sleep or stay into REM sleep and cycle through it, should be 5 times, then the proteins are not getting clean, they're getting blocked, and they're making now connections with Alzheimer's or some form of dementia. Nobody wants that.
No.
Um, so that is a huge thing. The pituitary gland is, we have those glands different places in our body. That is the cleansing mechanism for the rest of the body, but there's no pituitary gland in the brain. So it's very specific to REM sleep. So that is why, as you were saying, like exercise is so important to move the body because that is helping that pituitary system to move. But then it kind of finishes off where you're doing a lot of the cleansing as well at night for the body. Um, so it's that's why it's those stages are so important because they're doing different things. I mean, you really can point when you look at somebody's sleep patterns and see where it's having its impact. That's why the immune system doesn't bounce back. So, people ask me all the time when I'm talking to them about sleep, can you catch up on the weekends? To some degree, yes, you can. You can get a little bit more because there's a term that's called sleep debt. So you can be walking around when I was running like with on a hamster wheel and not getting enough sleep and all of that, staying so late and getting up early because I had the kids at home. Um, so I always had a healthy amount of sleep debt. So you can chip away a little bit of that sleep debt when you catch up on sleep, but you never catch up from a day to day. So when you lose that sleep and your body is not getting in those stages and doing what it needs to do, you don't catch up on that. You can't catch up on that 3 days later or even a day later because your body has already missed out on what it needed to do for recovery on that day, which is why you wake up and you feel it immediately. So,
I,
because there's a lot of things you can do. Like you can eat crummy for a few days and maybe even a whole week. You go on vacation and you might have a little bit of a upset tummy. You might gain a little bit of weight, right? But it's not anything like what it is when you miss out on sleep. It's much,
so
much
yeah,
more profound.
sleep is definitely a must do, consistent, stay consistent. type of thing. I know I did not get a lot of sleep. I woke up yesterday very groggy. I went to bed late, got up early. I did not want to get up.
Yeah.
I did not want to do what I needed to do, but I did it. And then for some reason, I was not tired, or I was probably overly tired last
Yeah.
night. And it took me a while to get to the point where I was like, all right, I need to go to bed. But then I slept 10 hours.
Hmm.
And I woke up this morning and I'm like, I can get up. And I'm stretching my legs. I'm like, oh, that feels lovely.
Hmm.
And my tools are saying, hey, you had a really good night's sleep. And I'm like, I like this. Okay. So I need to plan because I try and be in bed for at least 7 to 8 hours.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I'm not getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I'm only getting like 6.5,
Hmm.
maybe almost 7. And I'm seeing it and I'm feeling it. And I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
Heather, you need to revamp what you do.
Yeah.
And for me, it is a little bit hard because 2 nights, sometimes 3 or 4, depending on my schedule, I serve at night and I used to food run. So I don't get home sometimes until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
I need to wind down after those shifts
Yeah.
before going to sleep. And it's so there is some adjustment, and I'm playing with all of that so that way I get the sleep I need.
Hmm.
Because if I get sick, most likely my son will get sick. And my partner right now is still walking through cancer treatment. So he can't get sick. He gets sick, he's hospital bound.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
he's headed hospital.
Yeah.
So making sure he gets the sleep he needs. And also my son. And
Hmm.
he's going to be 9 in a few weeks, so he needs
He needs a
sleep.
lot more
So
sleep. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I'm seeing we need a bit better sleep routine.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I find when I sit down and work with clients one on one, it's a big part of it is simply starting to make it a priority. It's that whole thing, what measures grows. And so your awareness will grow when you start really paying attention to it and looking at, then it becomes like, okay, what has to be, what has to be let go of,
Mhm.
what do I have to let go of? What has to go in order to make room for a different routine, which might be letting go so you can stop and start the bedtime routine earlier. So I'd be curious as to why you're in bed but you're not sleeping. So is it just not you're not having an easy time going to sleep? It takes a while to sleep, or are you intentionally staying up but you're in bed but you're not ready to go to sleep?
It's some of it is I stay downstairs too long because
Hmm.
I there is a screen in my room, but there's no cable. We don't have a DVD player in there. It just there's a screen.
Hmm.
Downstairs there's the TV. And I get engrossed in a television show, and then about 20 minutes before it ends, I can feel myself between commercials falling asleep.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
I move to go to bed, and I'm like, I'm not tired anymore.
Hmm.
And in fact, I am tired. It's coming out of that light beginning to fall asleep stage.
Hmm.
And then when I do go to upstairs, and there's the light is in the hallway, I have my fan to kind of keep me cool, but we're in summer, I don't have an air conditioning upstairs.
Hmm.
So it's sometimes the heat wakes me up. Sometimes it's just really sticky.
Hmm.
But sometimes I have a hard time getting to sleep. That latency, that time between the time I lay down and the time I actually go to sleep. Sometimes it's 7 minutes, which is right about a
Yeah,
good time
that's
frame.
great.
Sometimes it's 3 minutes and they're like, yeah, you were really tired. Other
Hmm.
times, like last night, for some reason, I could not go to sleep. It was 34 minutes, even
Hmm.
though I was tired downstairs. And I went upstairs and
Hmm.
I was like, all right, I'm going to lay here. I don't know if it was the storm coming in and was watching the lightning.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what all was happening, but for some reason, it took me 34 minutes to go to sleep last night.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a thing if I haven't fallen asleep almost immediately, like within, 5 or 10 minutes somewhere in there, that I have I'll put on either some sort of sound because I have a Alexa that I can put on ocean sounds or a meditation that is a sleep meditation. everybody has something different that can work for them, maybe better than others. That's what I do. But you said something that was interesting is that we have our peak energy, and for many people, it's at 10 a.m. and again at 10 p.m. So if you don't catch it and you push through that time when you start getting tired, you'll be awakened. And it may not be exactly 10 p.m. for you, but it's somewhere in there where you push through it and then all of a sudden now you're awake again.
Mhm.
So we have our rhythms that we often resist. And quite frankly, I'm still a night owl. I still stay up later than would probably be optimally because the deepest sleep is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And when I used to go to bed at 1:32, I was missing that. So that was one of the things that was like, oh, crud. I still love going to bed. It's rare for me to go to bed before midnight. But the difference is, so I'm getting to sleep earlier than I used to, several hours, but I don't wake up. I make sure I get at least 7 hours of sleep. You had said early on when you were kind of introducing the topic that you can get too much sleep. Usually that's an indication. I mean, some people sometimes they just need more sleep and they feel good and can't find a reason not to. But oftentimes when I hear people that tell me, clients that say they're sleeping 10 hours and they're waking up and they're still exhausted. So they're not really getting good quality sleep. So just being in bed and, you know, there's something going on with their sleep that they're waking up. And again, those are things that it's very worth exploring to see what can be done. If I was working with you, Heather, I would suggest that if you're getting woken up in the summertime because it's sticky and muggy and hot, I would get a window unit. I'd figure something out or a fan. You have to figure it out. It's worth the investment. This is where it's like that. Okay, let's really understand this is a problem because, even a week or two a summer, it's not worth it. It can throw your whole system off and it just feels crummy. I mean, it so rarely happens for me, but I remember when it used to happen all the time where I woke up every morning and I was just like, I'm not ready to wake up because I wasn't. And so now when that happens, and I was laughing with my niece who was over here yesterday that because she hadn't slept well the night before either, we were talking about sleep that there's something about when you know you have to wake up early and so you're worried that you're going to get enough sleep, that's when your brain is like just won't let you. That makes me crazy. I don't know what to do about that except to go to bed earlier to try to. So it's so important. It's worth having lots of talks about it. It's worth creating a sleep diary. It's worth looking into improving yours. It's called sleep hygiene, which I think is kind of a funny name for it. I'd rather call it sleep habits and a bedtime routine. Um, because I'm all about self-care, and I think this is a perfect time to give in to self-care, to do some things and it doesn't have to be a bubble bath. We go there and we think, oh, it's going to be a bubble bath. No, it can be so many different things that relax the brain. I always say when you create your bedroom to take a step back and look at it, and if you can make it into it's a sanctuary.
Mhm.
It's only for sleep. It's only for rest and relaxation. In other words, take the TV out of it, even though that's R&R, but better to not watch TV in your bedroom. If you're going to read, make sure at night when you read something, it's not something that stirs you up. It's not political. If you have a heated discussion, you take it out of the bedroom. It's like you want to start thinking about protecting that space. And that does wonders to creating because it's starting to trigger in the brain. And it's also part of the whole rhythm. And, people it's easy to go get melatonin over the counter, but that can screw up your natural rhythm. So better to create an environment that is completely dark, doesn't have blue light, doesn't have outside light coming in, that feels calming, however that you identify that. Sometimes it's about painting your bedroom a different color. It's about taking the clutter out. If you have this pile of stuff, don't keep your laundry piled up in your bedroom. All these little things to unpack. The things that we can control. Now, can you control a young child coming in with night terrors? You cannot. Can you control an animal that needs you? I would be working with that dog to not, that would drive me crazy. I know how to train my dog because he's sitting right here on my foot right now. I know I've learned what I can and can't do so that he doesn't disturb my sleep. Because if I don't get him settled,
Mhm.
and he's someplace else, he will wake me up at night, like at 5 in the morning. I'm not ready to wake up. So, those things we have to control our environment as much as we can because it's so important.
Yeah, it's usually my dog would go and sleep through the night. It's been the last few years. He's 14. So I'm like, his bladder's
I see.
shrinking. He's
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
older. His hips are
Sure.
bothering him. So I understand. Am I happy about it? No, but I
Yeah.
understand. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, we've
Well, and
we've got
there's
a
some things,
senior.
yeah, and there are things you can do to address his comfort as well
Hmm.
that are, alternative kinds of things, and that might be something worth looking to as well because, it could be a whole, you hope it's another couple of years that you have him. So again, I think it's about making it a priority to look and see what is in my control. Some things are not in our control, right?
Absolutely. Where can individuals find more about you and sleep and choosing vibrancy?
Well, very simply, my website is called Choosing Vibrancy. So that's the first place you can go, choosingvibrancy.com. I have a Facebook group that's a public group that's called Choosing Vibrancy. So I pour into that. And I have my YouTube page has some stuff about wellness and sleep, and so that's under my name, Sherri Danzig. So for YouTube
All
page.
right.
So yeah, I'd be delighted to have a chat with anyone. I set up if you're interested in a sleep consultation, I'll send you my sleep questionnaire. We set up a 30-minute consultation. I don't charge for that. I'm very passionate about sharing information. And so the idea is to walk away from that conversation with some um, tips and things to do to focus on. And then I like to set up a follow-up to see how's that working. Do we have any more information? So I'm happy to share.
I That is very nice that you have that available and you're able to do those consultations. Before we say goodbye, do you have any wise words of wisdom for us to take with us?
Well, I kind of spoke about this to get a book that is dedicated to sleep. So some sort of a journal or diary. Um, Doesn't have to be fancy if you don't want it to be. So I would say, start there so you can start creating, um, maybe you start creating your optimal, most delicious way of how you end each day. Because, we started this conversation in the very beginning talking about being excited about living, being excited about life. And so perhaps it could be a sleep and appreciation journal if you're not doing that already. I think it's a great way to end a day is to talk about. I say people say gratitude. I study with Abraham Hicks and um, the law of attraction, and so I gravitate more to the word appreciation because I think it's a higher vibration than gratitude. So I offer that. And so for me, it's an appreciation journal. And that is a wonderful way to kind of wind down and think about, kind of process the day from a non-critical, simply a high vibration appreciation mindset. So that's one of the things I do at night. It's by my bedside. It's a book, and I don't go back and read entries almost ever. I simply write, and it's a way to kind of process it and then put it to be. So that's one of the things I really enjoy doing. I think that takes care of it's a great way of quieting me. The other thing I do, and I have a book by my bedside, I've learned that if I start looking at my phone at night, when I get into my bedroom, I'm done. I have no control, no self-control. So that is off limits for me. Um, I read and then I feel sleepy and I close it off and go to sleep. The last thing that I do is I highly recommend is that you sleep with a sleep mask. I'm very addicted to my sleep mask because it's another thing that signals, first of all, it blocks out light, so it signals my brain it's time for sleep. Because of some of the technologies in it, it kind of relaxes my eyes. And I think it's simply part of that routine that I know when I put that, if I don't have my sleep mask, if I'm like hunting around or it fell behind the bed, I almost always put it behind under my pillow so I know where it is. But life is not perfect. So there's times where it's like, where the heck did it go? It's caught up. I forgot to do it. So if I was to try to go to sleep without my sleep mask, I would not feel like I could shut everything down. There's something about having that sleep mask. And again, that's part of my routine. So have a routine because that is why I think I go to sleep so easily and stay asleep almost always. I very rarely wake up in the middle of the night. Um, so those are my tips.
Thank you very much, Sheri, for taking us on this enlightening journey into the importance of sleep. I am so glad you were here on Embracing Flow.
My pleasure. I loved the experience. And I really salute you for what you're doing, what you're offering. It's a great service.
Thank you. All the links that Sheri shared can be found in the show notes. Thank you, listeners, for spending your time with us today. If you found a nugget of wisdom or a moment of empowerment, our mission is accomplished. Do you know someone who could benefit from this information? Please share Embracing Flow with them. In every phase, embrace it, love it, crown it, and be vividous. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show, submit a rating and review, and share it with your friends. Visit my website, embracingflowpodcast.com, to receive your free guide on 4 ways to decrease PMS. The link is in the show notes. Information shared on the Embracing Flow podcast is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. Until next time, love hard, laugh often, and always be vividous.